There, you missed a beautiful ratio song. All right, you should have potentially 3 things on your desk. If you got your graph paper back out, which you don't have to, I just wanted to ask, do you still have this? It's going to be worth candy next week. We're going to talk about 10% today. So if you need that reminder, maybe get this out. 511 and 512. We're starting on 511. On the front, where hopefully you did actually write down what our 100% of fiber should be for the day. So, sorry, I did not capture this on, to put in the slides right there, but right here on my paper, I think yesterday we at least got to this, right? I think we at least got to 1 gram being 4%. Did our class get to 100%? How would I go from 4%? I'm trying to figure out how to cover this up. I got to cover up multiple pieces. If I then set up, which you could on your paper, how to go from 1 gram being 4% and get to 100%, how can I go from 4 to 100? What do I do? Multiply by 25. And if I do it on bottom, we got to do it on top. So guys, in a day, you should be consuming about 25 grams of fiber. Not enough? You probably bit stocked up. Too much, and actually that's okay. There's people always have these conceptions, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. Like, oh, well, if you eat too much of it, then it's just going to whoosh. No. And vitamin C, if you take a Flintstone vitamin or whatever, you're probably getting 100% of your vitamin C from that vitamin. And then if you eat fruit or whatever else, you'll get more, and that's okay. You can have too much vitamin C. That's fine. Yeah.
My dad used to make me and my sister take those gummy steaks.
Okay, all I know is that the chewy, chalk kind of ones, those I liked. Yeah, those were good.
Those are the best ones.
All right, so speaking of vitamin C, not the singing group. I doubt anyone gets that.
What?
Vitamin C was a singing group back in the 90s. Anyone know who TLC was? Don't go chasing waterfalls. And then Weird Al made the cover don't go making phony calls. Yeah, great. Okay, back on focus. So vitamin C, what we need in our bodies. Anyone want to guess how many milligrams we're supposed to have in a day? I'm just curious where your brain goes. How much milligrams of vitamin C are we supposed to consume to be healthy? Do you want a chair? There's so many chairs. Are you sure? I kind of wish that table was higher so it could be a standing table. You want to guess, Jay?
60.
How did you know this? Wait, what? I'm not joking. How did you know that? It's 60 milligrams. Yeah. That's how much we're supposed to consume in a day. Yeah.
Originally going to get 50.
So 60 milligrams. And guys, this is why I love CPM. Most of what CPM has you doing is accurate. It's real information. Reminder, this is on the front of 511. You should be looking at this. It's on your 511. You should be looking at this on your 511. Oh, and okay, here's the problem. It was Thursday, which means I went and played D&D and other games last night. I did not grade. Anyone else turn that in and want it back just for the moment? I forgot that I wanted to do vitamin C problem. Okay, I'm sorry. I appreciate you telling me that I had it. That's all you gotta do is let me know I have it. So, count how many subdivisions, how many, because guys, remember, some of us are getting goofed up with this. This counts as a section, right? You don't want to count how many tick marks, because you'll end up counting too many. How many sections did we break this line up into? Answer? Had not counted yet. Dan? 10. So if this 100% is broken up into 10 sections, what's one section worth? Anyway, 10%. So let's write that down. Now, if we know that 60 milligrams is our 100%, this is where we're going to start practicing the 10% technique. And guys, I'm telling you, I've been telling you all year long, you're going to end up going out to eat and needing to tip. I really hope just somewhere in the back of your brain you're like, oh yeah, thanks, Mr. Hudson. Like I know how to tip without a calculator because of you. How can I go from 100% to 10%, since we said we're going to use our 10% technique today, and well, literally I'm looking for 10%. So how do I do it? Yeah. Yeah, now here's the really nice thing about when we're just dividing by 10. Can anyone tell me, like, yeah, okay, we can do the math, but what else could I just, like, do when we divide by 10? Isaac? Yeah, literally when you divide by 10, it bumps your decimal over to the left, and that's how we get that 6 milligrams is actually our 10%. Leaving, well, what percent would be the rest of our number line?
90.
90, right? And how many milligrams are we missing? Well, I could use this and find 90%. Or we could subtract, right? If we know we gotta get to 60, we have 6, we're missing 54. Questions? Before we move on from 511, I want you to try to fill in the percentages on the bottom of this. Ooh, also, this should not be difficult. If we're making purple paint, this first question should not be difficult. If we're making purple paint and I use 3 parts blue, 12 parts red, how many total parts of purple will I have? 15. So we know that. So work with your partner to try to fill in the percents that we're missing down here. Percent for blue and percent for red. Those percents should add up to how much? 100, right? It needs to add up. So talk with your partner about how we can do this. If you know how much blue and you know your total, or if you know how much red and you know your total. Okay, that's fine. I just was curious. It's just using that or because we're not. I didn't know if you were using that as your calculator, which I was like, bro. Yeah, like handhelds are easier, they're faster. In my opinion, better. Have I bragged about winning in this class yet?
No. I had second class.
You guys know I'm such a humble person. I won a game that last night. We killed an octopus in the D&D campaign. Killed a couple of flying creatures, all with flying colors. We were rolling 20s and we were destroying stuff. And then we played this other game. We built a castle, and I beat everyone by like at least 10 points. I had a good Mad King Ludwig. Yeah.
I thought it was one of my favorite games.
Because it's like geometry, right? Kind of like, where can I fit
Yeah,
this?
I've had the favorite game.
I won because I stole all the stairs and had the most downstairs rooms and like just like compounded on that.
It's also my mom's favorite game, so it's also easier to get the whole.
Are you on my FCO this time?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. We can continue this conversation later. All right, blue. Anna, can you help me with what you think we could do to figure out what percent is blue? It's totally. Sorry, go ahead. I don't know. Because I need to know how we get there. You might want to write this down if you have forgotten it. It's also in the math notes if you go look at the math notes in Schoology, or if you come ask me for a physical copy. Like, I'll give you physical copies. I just don't want to make a bunch because I learned, like, most kids don't use them. Like, they just go look at them on the PDF because it's just there, right? You have your Chromebook almost all the time. So to do a percent, to figure out a percent, if you don't know it, we set up part compared to whole. Now, I agree with you, and it looks like it's about 25% across the number line. But the problem is we go farther in math, you can't trust what things look like. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? That old saying. And I often do judge books by their covers. Like, ooh, that looks cool, I'm going to read it. But so if we set up 3/15, you could either, how do I get to 100? Or you could do the division. But if we want percent, we need to get to 100 in the denominator, right? If I don't know what to multiply by, how do I figure it out? Division. division like backwards, quote unquote, right? Because we're trying to multiply forwards. So to do that, we divide backwards, and it will tell us what to multiply by.
That's not a nice number.
So it's not a nice number. Leave it in your calculator and hit times 3. Now, what was it? Was like 6.6 or something like that. So leave it in your calculator, right? Leave it. Like, practice this right now. I'd love for you to grab a calculator because we need to practice like using our calculator to make life easier. Here's what I mean about leave it in your calculator. And guys, they're in the bins. Most of the calculators are in the highlighter bins. If we did 100 divided by 15, the answer's gross. And it's a lie. You want to come borrow this one? It's a fancy one. Sitting right here. So you leave that, and when you hit times, it grabs that number. I know my camera's being kind of weird this morning. It grabs that gross number. That's why it says ANS. That's representing the answer you had. So we're doing that times 3 to do it in the numerator as well. Right? Because we're doing it in that numerator as well. And we get what? 20. Which tells us that is 20 per 100, which means per cent. Right? So this is 20 per cent. 20 per 100, 20 per cent. Questions on that? So how much percent am I missing to get to 100? Yeah, we don't need to do this all over again. We can just say, what percent am I missing to get to 100? 80%. Questions on that? You have a problem very similar to that on your home. All right, moving over to 5.2 or 5.1.2. Let's go shopping. Anyone want to read? Anyone want to read for us? Jay, you gotta read quickly though. You can do your voice, but we gotta be able to hear you, and you gotta go fast enough. Like, cool?
Alright, 5:14.
Yeah. So read about what's her name? Marissa. Yeah, Marissa.
I just read it.
Yeah.
Marissa is always looking for a great deal while shopping. She found a sale rack where all the jeans are 40% off. Her favorite jeans regularly cost $7.65.
Kind of expensive jeans.
Hey, to figure out if she has enough money to buy a pair of jeans, Marissa decides to estimate. She thinks that the jeans will cost approximately $30. Is her estimate reasonable? Explain your thinking.
So before we do any math, why don't you just turn to a partner, think about that situation, think about her estimate. Do you think that's reasonable? Or if not, do you think she should have estimated lower or estimated higher? Chat with each other.
Jeans aren't even 50% off.
Guys, you're talking about the math, not about your fashion choices.
No, it's probably not the exact number because they sent but basically I'm pretty sure it's gonna be close to 40.
All right, Mason, what'd you guys say?
You said that it really depends on the brand because like
No, it doesn't. Like, sorry, but like the math doesn't care about what type of jeans they are. We know everything we need to know. So it does not depend. I mean,
it's not that.
and maybe you guys misunderstood the question. We're trying to say if the jeans are 65, Harrison, if the jeans are 65 normally, I'm not asking you is that a good price or a bad price. I'm saying when she estimates what she's going to pay with this sale, is her estimate of $30 reasonable? Let me change how we're talking about this. If I legitimately only have $30 cash, no credit card, no debit card, I have cash in my wallet, can I buy the pants? Sold?
No, because her estimate is over half, and the
Over half, what do you mean?
over half of the price of the original.
Like taken away, right?
Yeah.
She took away how much?
Like, she
took away $35.
Over half, and the percent off is under half.
Yeah, her percent off is not half off. It's 40% off. She, dollar amount, took away more than half. I do not trust her estimate. We should probably do some math. So, let's set up, and you can, there's like a couple different open spaces on your paper. From the examples from class, you can write stuff wherever you want. If $65 is our 100%, I want you and your partner to try to figure out the 10%, and then figure out what she's going to actually need to pay. There are multiple ways to do this. So if you two have two different ideas, let both of you do your idea and then come back together and see if your answers agree. So figure out your 10% first. I promise it will make your life easier. And then figure out what she's going to pay. Remember, Isaac told us we can kind of just move that decimal. Double check what you just said. That's what she's going to pay? We're figuring out what she's going to pay. Oh, by the way, OH. Monday night, right? Monday night we take on Notre Dame. Yeah, it's the national. It's a playoffs. It's like national championship. No, I don't think so.
I'm only interested in hockey. I'm not watching.
I mean, the Duke Jackets are on
I'm gonna
here.
play.
Jackets are doing well. All right, Brad, help me with getting to 10%. How do I go from 100% down to 10%? Yeah. And if we do it on bottom, we got to do the same on top. So what do we get as our 10%? Anyone? It's money. Jumped right out of my hand. Yes, it's money. Go 2 decimal places, guys. If you're going any decimal places with money, go 2. We don't stop at 1 decimal place with money. That's silly. And we also don't go 3 decimal places. Only gas stations do that. And if you think I'm lying, start paying attention. Literally, gas stations go to a 3rd decimal place because it's a scam. The price of gas is actually a penny more than what they show on the sign. Because then there's a 9. So say, like, right now, I drove past a gas station last night and the price was $3.31. It's actually $3.31.9.
What?
Yeah.
No.
It's all a scam. You're right. That is not even how money works. So, Callum, what can we do now? We got our 10%. Sure, yeah, why? Yeah. Callum says, let's get to 40%, figure out how much she's saving. So we're going to time. You do not need a calculator. Break this up. What is 6 times 4? What is a half, right? Like 0.5 times 4. So this is $26. Right? Is that how much she's going to pay? No. That's how much she's saving. So I wonder, when she estimated like 30, I wonder if she was accidentally maybe like estimating this instead of what she actually is going to pay. How can I figure out what we're going to pay, Harrison?
We can take 65 minus 26.
Yeah, because we know the jeans were supposed to be 65, right? So that goes with our 100%. We can subtract away the 26. How much is she left needing to pay? 30. Is there another way? Actually, I'll straight up say there is another way that we could have done this in one less step. To figure out what she's gonna pay, we could have done this in one less step. Asher? Why? Love this. This is what I wanted us to do. But Asher says, if I come back here, and instead of do times 4, if I do times 6, that gets us to 60%. And that's what she's paying. Because if you save 40%, you're going to pay 60. And if we do this math of times 6, we will get $39 as well. Question. I gave the other class the final 8 minutes to work on their homework, but then I kind of backpedaled and said, well, sure, you're working on your homework, but let's work on this together. So flip to the back of this page. We're going to look at this together. Oh, sorry. The other thing I did in the morning class that I forgot to talk about with you guys, you don't have to look back at 511, but on 511, on the back here, I had a couple people come and ask me questions. If your 6th grade teacher did not make a big deal out of this, I'm kind of surprised because I feel like in the past most people have. What does CPM call this? The giant 1. Why? Can anyone remind us what's happening there? And yes, I'm showing you an answer to your homework. You can also go look at my answer keys because they're on Schoology. Isaac. Yeah, because anytime you have a number over itself, it's equal to 1. So guys, what this is practicing, or having us practice, is if I do the same thing on top and bottom, this 15/24 is actually the same as 5/8, right? Because when you multiply by 1, which is what they're doing, the number stays the same. So we use different numbers, but the value is equal. And then over here, you're being asked to figure out what the giant 1 is. Well, how do I go from 15 to 60? If we do the division, it's 4. All right, so on 512, if you flip to the back, right, just top of the back. Ooh, I don't want to show you answers. All right, here we go. Anyone want to read it? If no one else volunteers, you know it's going to default to J. All right, Callum.
No.
You do not need to make these look perfect. You do not need to measure stuff, but you do need to make it look approximately right. So we're going to draw a percent diagram like we've been using, like I've been giving you, but at this point we're going to practice actually drawing it on our own. What percent would be here at the right end? 100, right? We know that's our whole thing. It's 100%. If I'm going to try to put a mark on there for 90%, should I put it in the middle?
No.
Should I move left or right?
Right.
Right. Okay, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. But that's okay because we're approximating. Then we'll label. Right? So we're going to label to make sure we know what's what. Because again, we can't just trust what it looks like. It's okay if it looks a little off. So what percent did she get? 90. Right? They tell us. This almost feels like worth highlighting. I mean, up to you what you highlight, but sort of feels like those things are worth highlighting. So she got 90%. This feels weird to talk like this. You got a 90% on your, because we do mastery here, right? This just kind of feels weird. How many points did she score on the test? Also feels weird to talk about points. So we need to figure out how many points was the test worth. What percent are we missing here? What percent did she miss? Yes, she missed 10%. So I need you and your partner to work together to figure out what is, how many points will 10% be. Go ahead and chat with each other. I'm going to write a couple things up here.
box.
Yeah.
This is the original box. You shouldn't even pop it open. No. Because this is the original box.
Can you show me like how? I mean, yeah, I just would like you practicing proportions, like where we're setting up fraction to fraction. So it'd be great if you would also copy down that. There are other ways to do this, but we're trying to practice using proportions, right? Because this is kind of like the unit that we're in. It's like proportion unit. Concept. How do I go from 90% to 10%? Divide by 9. Careful. Because you're like, Monsef's right, but like, careful to make sure you think through it. So then in the top, we also do divide 9. What's 63 divided by 9? Which means, okay, the 7 would be here. Meaning, how many total points was the test worth? 70. And you have the last few minutes to answer whatever other problems you want to.